So our agenda today, and again, I want people to who join the call to know that it is being recorded. Our agenda today is we're going to review the frequently asked questions regarding the stimulus payment that people will be receiving. We'll address questions related to those eligible for SSI and SSDI, and we will also address how payments will be received. We'll discuss the impact of those payments, and then also provide you some topical resources, including information about ABLE accounts and about how to access benefits counseling and other work incentive information. The session is planned to have a question and answer session. So please add your questions to the chat, and we will ask those questions at the end of the presentation. I do want to make a disclaimer that information regarding this topic is accurate as of today. Those who've been receiving information from the federal government or through your email listservs will know that information seems to change daily, and we are doing our best to stay up to date. So currently we think the information we're sharing is accurate. All right, so our presenters today, I am your moderator. My name is Vicki Ferrara, and I'm the coordinator of Access to Integrated Employment at the Sherlock Center, and Jean Fay, who is a certified work incentive benefits counselor. Jean will be our main presenter today, so welcome, Jean. And we also have Chris Civitalo, who is from the General Treasurer's Office, who will be providing us some information on ABLE accounts and how to access those. I want to thank Chris and Jean, who have been very instrumental in making sure the information that we shared today is accurate. I also want to give a shout out to my colleagues, Elaine Solicito at the Sherlock Center, who has been very responsive to making sure this event happened today, as well as to Marianne Palak, who's our Associate Director. All right, so Jean, make sure you are unmuted so that you're able to share information. And how about if you kick us off, and I'll say for the last time, hopefully, if you are on the call, please make sure your video is turned off, unless you're a presenter. And to turn off your video, go to your Zoom chat, your Zoom ribbon, find the video icon and put it on, I think it's mute or off. Thank you. All right, so Jean, why don't you take it away? And Jean, if you think you're speaking, we can't hear you, so please unmute yourself. Jean Fay, we cannot hear you.
Okay, so the first slide talks about who will receive a stimulus payment. Okay, so most adults who have low to moderate income will be receiving a payment of $1,200. Some people may have received them already, all right? They may also receive a $500 payment for any dependent children. This does include people who receive SSDI and most people who receive SSI, and there will be a separate payment for each member of an SSI couple. Some people will not get the full amount if their income is over certain limits, but the person with a low to moderate income should get the full amount. So a family having 2 children might get $2,400 for the parents, a total of $2,400, and another $1,000 for the 2 children. So that's just a typical example of a family benefit. Okay, if you'd like, you might want to put up this next slide, Vicki. which is who will not receive it? Okay. Now, you may not receive a stimulus payment if you have very high income, or if you can be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return. You won't receive a payment if you do not have a valid Social Security number, if you are a non-resident alien, or if you filed form, for 2019, if you filed form 1040NR, 1040NREZ, 1040PR, or 1040SS. Okay, Vicki, send the next slide. All right, so I assume that most of you are here today to understand how the stimulus payment will affect SSI and SSDI. There's some really good news about that. The payment will not be counted as income. Therefore, it will have no impact on either SSI or SSDI cash benefit amounts. It will not have an impact on Medicare or Medicaid. And it will not be counted as a resource or savings for 12 months from the time the payment is received. However, after 12 months, it will be counted as a resource if it has not been spent. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. So the stimulus payment will not be coming from Social Security. It will come from the United States Department of the Treasury, the U.S. Treasury. Okay. And for most people, the payment will be received in the same manner as the person typically receives their SSI or SSDI check. Okay. But there is an option for people to request direct deposit through using a new IRS web tool that we'll discuss later on. But typically, if your Social Security check is direct deposited, your stimulus will be direct deposited. If you receive it by postal mail, you'll receive it that way. If you receive your check by direct express debit card, you will receive your stimulus payment the same way. All set, Vicki? Okay, so now for most adults, the stimulus payment will be received automatically. Now, the exceptions to that are if you did not file a tax return in 2018 or 2019 and you have qualifying children who are under age 17, or if you're a new SSDI beneficiary since January 1st, 2020, you need to file, and you did not file a tax return in 2018 or 19, it is strongly recommended that you register through this new U.S. Department of Treasury web tool that will be shown on a later slide.
Jean, as I move the slides forward, if you could please read the question that you're answering.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yep.
Yep, no apologies needed.
So this slide obviously was if you have SSDI. The next slide is, what do I need to do to get my stimulus payment if I receive SSI? So now, this has gone back and forth. It has changed many times. But at this point, most people who have SSI who are eligible for checks will receive automatic payments. However, it is also recommended that you use the new Treasury Department web tool if you have qualifying children who are under age 17 and you did not file a tax return in 2018 or 2019. So both of those, if both of those apply to you, you should use the web tool. It's also recommended that you use the web tool if you're a brand new SSI recipient, if you started receiving benefits since January 1st of 2020, and you have not filed a tax return for 2018 or 2019. Then the web tool is strongly recommended. Okay. So how do I find and use the new Treasury Department web tool? We have supplied a link here. You can go to that link. You click on the button that says non-filers, enter your payment information here, And this is available in English and Spanish. And just simply follow the directions provided on the page. We've given you a little shot of what the page will look like so that you'll know you're on the right page if you see those photos that Vicki has put on the slide. In order to register using the web tool, you will need the following information. You'll need your full name, your current mailing address and your email address, your date of birth and a valid social security number, a bank account number and a routing number if you have one. If you have an identity protection personal ID number, which is called an IP PIN, that you received from IRS earlier this year, you should have that number available as well. If you have a driver's license or a state issued ID number, ID card, I'm sorry, you should have that available. And for each qualifying child, you'll need the full name, social security number, or adoption pair ID, and you'll have to note their relationship to you and your spouse. When can I expect to receive my stimulus payments? Well, some individuals may have already received their payments. I actually received mine. I was startled to look at my bank account and see that I had received it. However, using the web tool that we have the link to may speed up the payment delivery for families who have eligible children. Remember that the child has to be under age 17. Now, IRS has also developed another web tool known as Get My Payment, and you'll see a link there to get to that site, Get My Payment. And this tool can let a person know the status of the payment, and you can also choose to set up a direct deposit if you prefer, if you normally receive your check through the mail, but you prefer to get it by direct deposit. This is recommended for people who really need the money and hope to get their check more quickly. This tool may help with that. Okay. So the next question is the stimulus payment taxable or reportable to Social Security or other agencies? The good news is that the economic impact payment is not taxable and does not have to be reported to Social Security or DHS or any other agencies. They're well aware that people will be getting these payments, so it's not necessary to call. The next slide.
Jean,
Yes.
I'm going to take a few questions now so that we
Okay.
can just address some of the questions that have been asked so far.
Okay, great.
And the first is from Carrie Clark, who says, I get both SSI and SSDI, and I need to send my SSA 1090 form in, or do I need to file? And as you answer these questions, Jean, if you know we're going to address the question later, just state that or answer the question.
Okay. Well, I think that is a question. That's a great question. And have you been sent any instructions?
We can't.
That?
I
Okay.
can't,
If you have not been sent any specific instructions, I believe your check will probably come automatically. If it does not come, it might benefit you to use the online tool. If you haven't reported, if you haven't done a tax return, you might want to use that online tool to just put in your information to be sure that you get a payment. Now, if by some chance there's any confusion, because I've heard the IRS is making some mistakes with this, if you get 2 checks, unless you're married and you're supposed to get 2 checks, if you're a single person and you get 2 checks by some crazy twist of fate, obviously you're only entitled to 1. So only spend the 1 check.
The next question is, if an individual receives SSI and SSDI, and doesn't have dependents and doesn't file taxes, can they receive the stimulus?
I believe so, yes. There's I have not read anything that shows that a person on both benefits cannot receive it. I believe you will get the stimulus.
Okay. For minor children, do you have to enter the child's information?
If you filed taxes in 2018 or 2018 or 2019, you do not have to do anything. However, if you haven't filed taxes for one of those 2 years, then it is suggested that you go in and use the web tool to report the name of the dependents. Remember, they have to be under age 17.
Somebody's asking if we'll post the website again. We'll post that. It's actually, if you download the PowerPoint, you should have access to the tool, and I will try and post it in the chat at the end of the meeting.
I posted the web tool page in the chat. You'll
Oh, good.
Copy and paste that
All right,
link
great.
into
Thank you.
your browser, but it's there.
Okay, if we claimed our son as an adult dependent with disabilities, does he need to receive a stimulus check?
Well, this is a question that I have been trying to get the answer to for days. I've had conflicting information, but it seems to be correct, and I can't guarantee that this is 100% correct, but I think it is, that if you claimed your adult child who has a disability, if they live at home with you and you claim them as a dependent on your tax return, he or she will probably not get a check. However, unless it's a child under 17. If it's an adult child, the person probably won't get a check. If you did not claim the person as a dependent on your tax return, then very likely they will get a check. Can you nod your head, Chris, if that's what you also believe? Yes, okay. I needed confirmation of that because it was a question that I had myself, and I consulted with a professor at Cornell University who wasn't able to give me a definite answer. So it's been a struggle. But to the best of my knowledge, that's the truth.
All right, and this will be the last question, and then we'll go back to the presentation. The last question for right now is, how does this work for my rep payee clients who collect SSI and SSDI, and their payments come from SSA to a collective account? And we may or may not know the answer to that question.
I do not know the answer. Their payments go to a collective account, but I am assuming that each payment would specify who the payment was for. Hopefully.
Yeah.
And,
So we can Elaine, if you could make note of that question, and
yeah,
we'll try and follow up with that and see if we can get an answer. All right.
I'm sorry, you'll need to repeat it. I'll have, because I had somebody texting me over here about the meeting, about a personal question.
All right, I'll try and save the question.
Thank you.
Actually, we're going to save the chat, so we'll go back to it. It's about
Right.
Rep payees in a collective account.
Oh, got
All right.
it. Thank you.
Excellent. And again, if people are joining the call, if you could please turn off your video, that will help the recording be better for the people who look at it later. All right, let's continue, Jean.
okay. We did that one, okay. Will the receipt of the stimulus payment affect other benefits I receive? And amazingly, the answer is no, it will not. It will not affect SNAP benefits. If you live in a HUD rental it will not affect your HUD rental subsidy. But you should check with your office on this just to make sure that this is a federal HUD rental subsidy. If the state has some property, it may be a little different. So double check with your housing office, unless you know that you live in a federal federally run housing facility. Your Medicare and Medicaid will not be affected by the stimulus payment. If you receive assistance with your Medicare Part B premium, the copays or deductibles, or extra help with your Medicare Part D prescription drug costs, all of that will continue just as it has been. It will not have, the stimulus payment will have no effect on all of these benefits. And also, I think I forgot to put TANF. If you receive TANF payments for your children, they will not be affected. What if I want to save some or all of my stimulus payment? Okay, if you are on SSDI and you have Medicare only, you can save as much money as you want. You will not have, that will not affect those two benefits in any way. However, if you have SSI or if you have SSDI, but you also have Medicaid, then saving the stimulus payment could create a problem after 12 months if it causes your savings to exceed your Medicaid income limit. Okay, so if you have SSI and Medicaid, your Medicaid limit is only $2,000. So you do not want your savings account to be over $2,000 at any time. And I recommend, supposedly, it should not be counted as a resource for 12 months. So it would be okay for your resources to be over for 12 months. But I recommend that you just be careful and keep your resources under, because mistakes get made. So a really good solution for people who would like to save their stimulus payments is to use an able account if you are eligible to use one. And Chris will be talking more about an able account in a few minutes. I do have just some basic information. So the title of this slide.
Jean.
Yes.
Jean, this will be, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so the question is, how can I save over the income limits without fear of losing my SSI or Medicaid? So a solution may be to use an account, they're actually called Achieving a Better Life Experience or ABLE account for people with disabilities. In order to use one of these accounts, you have to have been disabled before age 26. If you're eligible, you're able to save up to $15,000 per year and even more if you are working. You can have up to $100,000 in your savings account before your SSI cash payments begin to be affected, okay? But if you have more than that, you would lose your SSI, but you will not lose your Medicaid. The funds in an ABLE account must be used for disability-related expenses, such as education or job training, health-related expenses, home maintenance and repairs, and other disability-related expenses. And so on the next slide, I believe we have a link.
Yep. So Jean, we're going to have Chris take over. And
okay.
Chris, do you want to expand on the ABLE account any further?
Yes. Thanks, Vicki and Jean. That was great. And good morning, everybody. As Vicki mentioned at the start, my name is Chris Civitolo, and I'm here from the Rhode Island Office of the General Treasurer. So not to be confused with U.S. Treasury, who is cutting your checks or providing your direct deposits, but locally the Rhode Island Office of the General Treasurer. And I do oversee the ABLE program. So as Jean mentioned, essentially what ABLE programs and plans strive to do and allow you to do is, if you have a disability and you became disabled before age 26, it essentially allows you to save money in both a tax-free and tax-deferred way, while also preserving your eligibility for things like SSI and Medicaid. So, if we think back to earlier in the presentation, Jean talked a lot about kind of the $2,000 resource limit that I'm sure you're all familiar with. And so naturally, one of the questions that a lot of people are bringing up is, well, what are potentially some ways for me to, if I don't need to potentially spend that right away and I want to think about saving that long term and possibly investing that, what can I do? So an ABLE account is really, I think, a great opportunity and something that you might consider. So, Jean kind of went over some of the highlights, but I'll expand on them a little bit. So essentially an ABLE account allows you to either pick a FDIC insured checking account along with a debit card, or to invest the money in one of 6, they're called target risk portfolio options. So essentially, if you're familiar with mutual funds and exchange traded funds, our program has investment options that allows you to pick one of those and invest your money, which would grow tax deferred. And then when it comes time to use that money, you can use it for any of your disability related expenses. And, Jean went over a few of those, but obviously it encompasses education, anything health related. If you have maintenance that you need to do on your home to make it accessible, that would count. Any education, personal health aids, really it's very all encompassing in a pretty broad spectrum. The other nice thing that Jean brought up, if you are someone who is also working, there is a provision that allows you to contribute more than that $15,000 per year cap. And I won't overwhelm you with the details, but essentially it's usually the lesser of what your wages are or essentially poverty level. So it is flexible and it's a good option for folks who might be working and want to contribute more than that $15,000. The other really big benefit that, Jean also mentioned, so bullet point number 2, essentially within an ABLE account, you can actually save up to $100,000 before your SSI payments would be impacted. So let's say you start your ABLE account and each year you deposit or save $10,000 in there. You're fine, totally fine in terms of SSI and Medicaid until you hit that $100,000 limit. Once you hit that limit, your SSI payments would be impacted and stop temporarily. Medicaid, though, very importantly, would continue on. So a lot of flexibility, and I'd really encourage everybody, Vicki, if you move over to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about how you can get more information and learn more about ABLE accounts, as well as if you wanted to potentially open one. So we have a website set up dedicated to the plan. It's ri.savewithable.com, and I really encourage everybody to take a look at it if you're not familiar with it. On the website, you can learn all the details about the program. You can also request an information kit if you wanted that mailed to you. And perhaps most importantly, you can actually also enroll right there on the website online. So it's 6 steps. It's very straightforward. If you had concerns though and wanted maybe some additional information and wanted to talk to someone specifically about some of your questions, we do have a customer service line that's operational Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Despite everything that's going on with the COVID-19 situation, all of our phone representatives are actually working remotely and still servicing everybody. So you'd have no issues getting in touch with anyone at this point. My contact information is also available on the PowerPoint deck. So if you had any questions, feel free to reach out to me via email or via phone. And it just saw a question come in, very good question. How much money do you need to open an ABLE account? It's a $25 initial contribution. So you just have to start with a minimum of $25. Every subsequent contribution that you might be interested in making, there's no minimum, but $25 to start.
All right, so now we'll go to our questions, and I'll just be scrolling through the chat box. What do you mean by spending the money within 12 months? How would that be tracked? Jean, do you want to take that question?
Okay. Basically, Social Security doesn't know which money you're spending, but the whole point of that means that if you're account is over your Medicaid resource limit, which for many people is $2,000. For some people it might be $4,000. But you don't want your account, your savings account, to show an amount over the $2,000 after 12 months after receiving the check, because that could cause your Medicaid or your SSI to stop. So if you want to save the money and you really don't think you're going to need it, it's just best to right away open an ABLE account, put it in there, and then you don't have to worry about forgetting that your account balance is a little high. If the $1,200 is the only savings you will have, it doesn't matter, because your account will be below the $2,000. But if you have other savings, let's say you have $1,500 in your account already, and you add that $1,200, well, then for many people, you'll be over. So that's why I'm suggesting it's a great opportunity to save, because as I think Chris just mentioned, these accounts can be used as investment accounts, and that money can grow. So why have it sitting in a bank account getting like basically no interest, when maybe it can be getting a good amount of interest? So it's a great thing.
All right, so we're going to continue on. For those people who have the rep payee questions and how things will be deposited, we don't have the answer to that question, but we will try and find it out. And we'll forward that to you with information that we send to everybody. I'm having trouble. Let's see. Here we go. Thank you, Elaine, for posting some information. Why are some unemployment payments coming erratically and no stimulus checks? Any Chris or Jean, do we have any insights on that, or is that something we have no information about?
Well, the stimulus checks, as I said, if you have direct deposit and you don't have children and you have a simple situation, you should get your check very quickly. Those who have children, it may take a little longer. And those who have not filed tax returns, it may take a little longer. If you don't have direct deposit, it may take a little longer. As far as unemployment goes, we all know that there have been millions of, literally like thousands and thousands and thousands of unemployment claims in Rhode Island, and they are doing the best they can. So it may just take a little while for things to get stabilized there. Okay, so it is possible that some people are already receiving unemployment checks, but have not yet received the stimulus payment. Do you want to add anything to that, Chris?
No, I would agree. I mean, I think that, you know, what we've really, I think, come to appreciate is the fact that these things have just been moving so rapidly, and there have been so many considerations, and naturally everyone's top priority is, you know, trying to get money to people who so desperately need it as quickly as possible. And I think what you're finding is that, you know, naturally there are some glitches, right, that occur. I would echo Jean's sentiments in terms of, you know, I think everyone is working as hard as they possibly can. You know, certainly the folks at the Department of Labor and Training, you know, we, just as Jean mentioned, I mean, you've seen the number of claims that they've had to deal with over the last month or so. You know, naturally that process isn't perfect. It's not going to be seamless. So I think that really, you know, frankly, is the explanation in terms of why you've seen things, you know, a little spotty at times. But I think it's to be expected. But everyone's working as hard as they can, you know, to get folks money as quickly as they can.
Great. Okay, another question. Do you have any information on whether the $600 that individuals are receiving through the CARES Act with unemployment will affect SSI and/or SSDI? If not, will it be the same 12-month rule as the stimulus payment?
Unfortunately, no. We will be doing a session, I believe, on unemployment. So I don't want to get into a lot of explanation, but if you have SSDI and you receive unemployment benefits, because SSDI is an insurance program. It will not harm receiving those benefits will not have any impact, should not have any impact on your SSDI or your Medicare. However, if you receive SSI benefits and you receive unemployment, because of the $600 federal payment, $600 per week, about $2,400 per month, in addition to your state payment, receiving unemployment will cause you to lose temporarily, have your SSI payment stop completely. However, the state has requested some extra money for Medicaid, and in doing so, they had to agree that they would not stop anyone's Medicaid during this COVID-19 crisis if they had Medicaid prior to the crisis, or if they just recently, during the crisis, became eligible. So you're able to get a whole lot more money than you would get in your SSI payment and not have to worry about losing Medicaid. So that's a wonderful thing. However, it will be counted for SSI because that's a means tested benefit. I hope that answers your question. You can contact me later if you have, if I haven't been able to answer your questions to your satisfaction, feel free to contact me later on and to give you a better explanation.
Great. There's a Joan Joan O'Neill on the call. And I can't, I don't know if people can see her video screen, but I wanted to let her know that I'm currently able not to hide her video, but I'm able to see her, and she may not want to be seen. So, all right, back to questions, and thank you, Jean. That was a good description. Okay, I claim our 29-year-old as a dependent with disability. He works part-time, but not now due to COVID-19. He receives SSDI and does not file a return. I received my stimulus payment, but not the $500. Should I assume he will not get anything? Maybe yeah. Okay. Jean,
yes. My guess is that he will not receive his stimulus payment because he has been claimed. You said that you claimed him as a dependent on your tax return. So I am fairly certain that he will not be receiving a stimulus payment at all.
Chris, this question is for you. Once set up, how are deposits and expenditures made to ABLE account?
Sure. Nope. Very good question. So a lot of flexibility there. I'll start with deposits. So naturally, you or any of your friends or family could always contribute via, just a check. So mailing in a check to the program. So that's probably the most, straightforward sort of conventional option. The option that most folks, though, take advantage of in terms of making deposits is just simply linking a checking or savings account to their ABLE account. And then that allows you either on a one-time basis, or if you wanted to set up a recurring contribution, whether it be monthly or quarterly, that allows you to simply just link the account, your bank account, to the ABLE account, and the contribution basically just gets swept into there. In terms of withdrawals, so kind of similar. So a check can always be mailed to the address on file for the participant. But more frequently, we see folks, again, linking their checking or savings accounts to their ABLE plan, and basically a direct deposit would be sent. The other option, and I kind of talked about this earlier, is through our partner Fifth Third Bank. We actually have a dedicated ABLE checking account option that comes with a debit card. So for those folks, the money, any withdrawals can actually be sent directly to that account as well. So a lot of options, all are convenient, and in terms of kind of, speed of delivery, obviously, a direct deposit, linked to your bank account or to your Fifth Third checking account option would be the quickest, right? So it'd be generally about 2 to 3 business days. A check would take a little bit longer, about 5 to 7 business days.
Thank you. Elaine, could you in the chat box post the post-meeting of information that we had talked about?
Yep,
And
post it right now.
yes, if you could,
Okay.
because I have one question left. And let's see, is there a monthly fee for an ABLE account?
Yes, so another good question. So I'll talk about fee structure. So in order to kind of administer the program, naturally our program manager does have some costs involved in that. So to help offset those, there is actually it's a quarterly fee. So it's not monthly, it's a quarterly fee structure. And it's $15 dollars per quarter. However, that can be reduced to $10 per quarter. And just two things that you have to do in order to get that. The first should be apply to just about everyone, I would imagine, on this call. If you're a Rhode Island resident, it gets discounted by $1.25. And then if you sign up for electronic delivery of your quarterly statements, it gets discounted by an additional $3.75. So that essentially takes you from the $15 per quarter down to $10 per quarter. And then the only other fee that I'd mention that would apply to some folks, and this is monthly, if you do take it or are invested in the Fifth Third checking account option, there is a $2 per month fee to maintain that. However, that is waived as long as you have electronic delivery of your statements, or if you maintain an average daily balance in that account of greater than $250. So for most folks, the easiest way to avoid some of these fees is naturally just to opt into electronic delivery of your statements.
Chris, another question is, are there any options for people who become disabled after age 26?
Yeah, great question. And so unfortunately now, at least with respect to ABLE, that cutoff is at age 26. What I can tell you though is that nationally, there has been great support and efforts that have been made to get that age raised actually to age 46. So Congress actually has been briefed by all ABLE plans and kind of stakeholders, and has actually received bipartisan support from many representatives and senators who are basically advocating for what's called an ABLE Age Adjustment Act. So essentially what that would do if it's passed, as I said, it would raise the kind of eligible age from 26 to 46, and that would, as you would imagine, be hugely impactful. The figures that we have kind of indicate that it could potentially almost double, the amount of people who would be eligible for ABLE accounts. So we're really hopeful, that it's something that can be pushed through. We've been working on it. Again, it's been worked on at a national level for probably 12 to 18 months now. We're not there yet, but we're really hopeful that we'll get there.
Great. Is there a monthly fee for the ABLE account?
Yep. So exactly as I just mentioned, it's just that the only monthly fee would be if you were invested in that checking account option, and that's the $2 per month. But it can be waived if you sign up for e-delivery of your statements. Or if you have an average daily balance of greater than $250. And then the only other fee, as I mentioned, is that quarterly fee that helps to offset the program administration expenses. It's $15, but for most folks, it could be reduced to $10 per quarter. You just have to have e-delivery and be a Rhode Island resident.
Great. Are receipts needed to prove the person's savings are being used towards the disability?
No, you'd never have to submit receipts, but what we tell people is you should keep a record of them for yourself. You would not, when you go to request a withdrawal or a distribution, you would never have to supply any type of documentation or receipt prior to you getting those funds. But in the rare event that you might be audited at some point, you should be, prepared to produce those. I would say that it's pretty rare that that would happen. The biggest thing there for you to just keep in mind is, just like everything else, make sure that you have a record of what you spent the money on.
All right, and I think this may be our, right now I have 2 questions on deck. And for those people who are on the call, if you could type your name and your agency, if that's appropriate, into the chat box, that would be appreciated. So the next question, Jane, this is for you. Will the weekly $600 unemployment check affect subsidized housing or any other benefits? I know that's not related to the stimulus package, but.
I do not have information on that yet, but my guess is that it will. The stimulus payment is being treated as, basically not income, but this will be as far as I know, the unemployment benefits will be treated as unearned income. And I think that will definitely, well, I don't want to say definitely, but I'm fairly certain that it will cause a rent increase. But remember, it's only 30%. So so it will not take away everything from the person, So 30% of 600 would be like $180 of that 600 would go toward a rent increase approximately.
All right, so I think there's one more question, and I'm trying to find it.
As soon as everybody started typing their names.
Yeah. Yes, Beth, this will be shared as a recording. Oh, here's the question. Do all banks have ABLE accounts available?
Yep. So the answer to that is no. So, and I'll just try to really quickly explain that. So remember, if you sign up for an ABLE account, that account is actually administered and sponsored by our office, so the Office of the General Treasurer. And then what we do is we work with a program manager, which is called a census government savings. They actually also are a program manager for our 529 college savings plan here in Rhode Island. And essentially what a census does in conjunction with our guidance is they offer, obviously, the investment options that we want to provide to participants. And then they basically partner with Fifth Third Bank, which is our partner for ABLE. Fifth Third, as I mentioned, that's where that checking account option comes in. So if you didn't want to actually invest the money and be subject to any kind of market, movements or risk, and you just wanted a normal FDIC insured, bank account, checking account like you're used to, that's where Fifth Third comes in. You can't, though, open an ABLE account, with a Bank of America or a Citizens Bank or Santander. So that's kind of the way that you want to think about that distinction.
So thank you. I'm going to review some highlights, some additional resources. And Elaine, if you could post the evaluation into the chat box that people could find that link. We may also include it in the follow-up information that we send out to you. So thank you for joining today's session. A few highlights that we want to just reinforce is that SSI and SSDI recipients will receive a stimulus payment. There are different rules for each benefit, so you do need to pay attention to what's specific to your individual benefit packages. Direct deposit will receive payments sooner than those who are getting a physical check. The stimulus payment is not taxable and will not affect benefits for 12 months. And that ABLE accounts are available to help you save above the SSI and Medicaid limits. And in the materials, we've provided some additional resources so that you can stay informed about changes. So Social Security Administration has a COVID-19 website. The IRS has a COVID-19 website as well. Additionally, we provide you information to the Rhode Island ABLE account, to Disability Rights Rhode Island, and to the Sherlock Center. We want to thank you for joining our call. We hope you complete the evaluation. And I'd also like to remind you that the Sherlock Center is a resource for work incentive benefits counseling information. And so we encourage you to join our mailing list. And also we offer public information sessions and general information about work incentives and benefits counseling on our website. So we ask you to check that out. And also that you can access work incentive planning and assistance benefits counseling by contacting the Ticket to Work helpline. That's our preferred method of receiving referrals. Or you can contact Jean Fay. And her email address is jfay@ric.edu. So I want to thank our presenters, Jean and Chris. Again, this was our first time offering a information session in this way. And I think you did a great job, so thank you very much for that. You are welcome to sign off the call. Actually, I'm going to check to see if there are any last minute questions. Actually, there is one other question, Jean. Hold on one second. Do I need to electronically file if there's any way possibly getting doing this? You know what, Kerry, we'll follow up with you directly. Okay, Kerry, to address that question. And it will, all of this information will be posted on the Sherlock website. And if you are on the call or registered, we will be emailing you directly with letting you know when that happens. So again, thank you very much. Attendees, you please sign off the call and presenters, if you could stay on the call, that would be great.